vehicle has landed.
You're listening to American Slacker Podcast with Matthew Gertz and Jesse Landers.
Welcome to American Slacker Podcast. As always, I'm Matt.
And I'm Jesse. Today we are joined by our guest, Zac Amico, international superstar comedian, wrestler, man of many hats.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Pleasure's ours, man. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself?
My name is Zac Amico. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Zac is Not Funny. And I'm a comedian, podcaster. I do 2 shows, the Real Ass Podcast with my best friend Louis J. Gomez, and then I do a horror movie show called Zac Amico's Midnight Spook Show, as well as I am a personality for a company called Capital Wrestling, where I'm a heel manager.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's got to be a lot of fun. I've heard being heel is the best thing if you're involved with wrestling. So it's got to be a lot of fun. It's so fun
because it's the opposite of having to do comedy.
And
I still get to do funny stuff, but I get to elicit a completely different response. It's been very rewarding.
Yeah, man. And I couldn't imagine like being in, like trying to achieve the like fuck you, like and being happy about it. But I see it must be addicting.
It's really fun, and it's so fun, especially to get little kids mad.
Oh, dude. Yeah,
like that's the most fun. You feel like a Disney villain.
Oh, dude, I bet we could relate to that. I
Permission
wish we could
to be the bad guy. I'm sure everyone wants that at some point in their lives, you know?
It's cathartic.
I saw it on YouTube. We were watching a little earlier, some of your matches, especially episode 111 of it was the Capital Death Match, you versus Jeff Cannonball. That's fucking brutal, man.
Yeah, that was so Capital doesn't usually do blood and guts type stuff. Okay. But, the entire basis of bringing me in, they knew I love that stuff. I'm obsessed with this guy, the Necro Butcher, who was in The Wrestler. If you saw the movie The Wrestler, he's the guy that Mickey Rourke has the death match with. Okay. With like the light tubes and the staple guns. And I was actually a big fan of Jeff's. And when they brought me in, they pitched that angle, and we kind of built up to that. And then I wound up getting cut a lot worse than I was supposed to. And it became real gross, real fast. And it was like 2:00 in the afternoon. Like it was, we really just frightened a lot of kids.
Oh my God. Yeah. What was the venue? Like, was that like a high school or like?
No, it's like a VFW type hall in Jersey. Okay. They do wrestling there like every single week. There's a bunch of companies that run out of it. Pro Wrestling Magic, another company called VXS, Violence Time Suffering. That building constantly has wrestling in it.
Oh my God.
Awesome.
So are you freaking out in your mind? Like when you start realizing that you're bleeding a little more than you agreed to?
You know, I was so caught up in it, and that was my first match ever. And I was so nervous that I couldn't figure out what I was bleeding from, because I had cut myself a little bit, but then all of a sudden it was really bad, and I couldn't put together what did it. I didn't realize it until somebody told me after they watched it what got it. And then when I saw the video, I realized what spot it was. So I was more confused, and all I could think about, because I'm neurotic, was I was so nervous that people had to wrestle after us, and I was trying to figure out how they could clean that up.
Right.
Oh shit!
How selfless of you, while taking a attacked bat to the head.
I wouldn't give a fuck about the people after me. I'd be like, oh fuck my head, I'm gushing.
Well, that, and I was like, man, I hope they don't charge me for this canvas.
Ooh, yeah, that's probably not cheap at all. Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that.
And I ruined it. They tried to power wash it, and they tried something else, but I remember
you left your mark. It sounds like
2 months later, they were setting up the ring for another taping, and they took out the turnbuckle pads, and one of the turnbuckle pads, a bunch of my blood was still in it.
Oh, nice.
That's brutal.
And it was really gross.
how long did you know you wanted to get involved with pro wrestling? Was that something from like being a kid, or like was this something like just became an opportunity out of nowhere?
I've been obsessed with wrestling for the majority of my life, little kid onward. Like one of my first vivid memories is telling my grandfather I wanted to be Mr. Perfect's tag team partner.
Oh shit! Okay.
By the way, I've always been a heel. Like I legitimately my favorite wrestler was Owen Hart. I've always wanted to be a bad guy. And then
Owen Hart, yeah.
A few years ago, so I'm a comedian, and we do a festival every year called Skankfest through the podcast that we're all involved with called Legion of Skanks. Mm-hmm. And at Skankfest, we're one former and one current wrestler who were working with Capital at the time. And the night before, I had done a show, and I came out and did the Sandman entrance from ECW, where I cracked beers on my head.
Yeah,
and Sandman and bled. And I showed them the scars on my head from the night before. And they went, "Oh, well, come see, we run this company if you want to come check it out." And me and a few comedians all went to a Capital Wrestling taping, and I loved it. And I told them I'd love to be involved any way I could. So they made me like this underling character to their boss, on-screen owner, who's Harry Turjanian, who's a great comedian, who I've known for a long time. And from there, they started giving me a little bit more. They let me start managing and cutting promos. And then I wound up training with two of them. And they just taught me some basics to get through what I had to do.
Mm. So a lot of the team is comedians there then?
Yeah, actually, So Harry Turjanian is the lead announcer, and he plays the owner of the company. And then he is in a sketch group called The Unwanted, and his partner in that group is a girl named Stephanie Satelli, who's very funny. She's one of the managers in the company as well. So between the three of us, and then we all do a lot of the interstitials, and we work on the storylines. So it's comedians all together.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Putting the stories and doing the promos.
Yeah. I can imagine having a lot of comedians on the writing team could definitely make the stories expand a little more. I mean, you see it get stale in the big companies. All I see is complaining online, and it's interesting to think of a lot of comedians being on the team actually writing.
A number of comics have written in the past for the big company. I mean, Patrice wrote the Undertaker versus Steve Austin feud.
Oh, wow. Really? Wow.
And then he got fired because he wouldn't stop doing stand-up on the weekends when they asked him to cancel his shows.
Oh, wow.
Made a good move in comedy. I mean,
yeah. I mean, yeah. Why is he going to give up his original art when it's just like a side job, you know?
But that's cool. That's an interesting marriage between the two forms of entertainment that I wouldn't have expected, I guess.
Yeah, I have a few friends who've worked on WWE creative at this point, and I want to say 2 or 3 of them were all from UCB. Or they were all sketch comics. So they actually do actively look at comedians' writing packets.
Oh, wow.
It's weird because they got it seems like, I don't avidly watch, but I see a lot of clips, and it seems like they go like a little hard, on SNL goes a little too hard there's that vibe of like the over the top comedy they achieve, whereas there's no subtlety.
What you mean.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, where I'm using my comparison is like, I guess I see like that big room comedy versus like independent where you actually see like moments shine that people are like, oh, damn, I never saw it actually coming, Yeah,
I mean, they're making TV for a very broad audience that is mostly children. So, yeah, subtlety is probably not the name of the game.
True. Now, you mentioned Skankfest before. I was just curious, what situation are you guys in right now with everything that's going on?
So we were supposed to have Skankfest South in Houston, Texas. It was going to be this coming weekend, but that has been postponed now to September the 25th.
Oof. Okay.
There was just no way of doing it. A few weeks ago, and this was before everything got crazy serious, the mayor of Houston, I believe, had put the kibosh on anything of more than 100 people.
Okay.
So we were going to lose everything regardless. So they called it when they did. But really cool. And they actually, what they did, so there's going to be more. There's the next one coming up, as well as there's going to be a Skagfest New York date to be announced. So anyone that had tickets can use those tickets for either of those, or they can get a full refund. So,
that's great.
Yeah, nobody got stuck. I've seen a bunch of events not give refunds.
Yeah,
that's
fucking mass move.
You can only transfer it to a later date. So it was actually really, and speaking from somebody on the who sees a little bit of the inside workings, they took a huge hit to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, they could have saved a bunch and said, "We'll take it all at that point," like everybody else is. You know,
they could have. They lost a tremendous amount of potential money, and then they took quite a hit, and they were very selfless about it.
Yeah.
That's good on them. What kind of, I mean, now that they have to look towards September for it, in the past years, what kind of stuff has Skankfest put out there for the audience?
Okay, so Skankfest is a 3-day comedy party. It is unlike most other comedy festivals in that there is no like VIP really. The comics hang out with everybody else.
Oh, wow.
And in the past, some of the surprise shows, they did a complete Tough Crowd reunion. With Colin Quinn, Jim Norton, Keith Robinson, Rich Voss, Bob Kelly. Last year, Louis C.K. did 20 minutes unannounced. The first year, Doug Stanhope. Like, you get some pretty big name comics come in and do surprise shows. And usually that'll be the Sunday because that's when everybody's off the road.
Let's see. And I mean, there's nothing like it. That many comedians getting your bang for your buck. I mean, it's an amazing show. I haven't had the chance to go.
Mixing and mingling too. Like,
I mean,
cool.
It's about 120 comics and 3 stages. So there'll be a tiny stage, a medium size, and then almost like a rock club type area. So they'll have like the goddamn comedy jam, which is really cool. It's basically comedians doing live band karaoke and doing stand up.
Nice.
And that's going to close out all 3 nights of the festival this year. I do something. So I came up with the dumbest show of all time. And that's my show that I do every year. It's called The Naked Roast. Okay. And it's roast battle. But myself, who's hosting, the competitors and the judges are all completely naked.
Oh, my God. Nice. What a spin. Okay.
And it's the funniest. Like, it might be the funniest. It's every year. Something so silly. Like Allison Klemp, who's a very funny comic here in New York, went on stage and pulled her jokes out of her pussy.
Nice. Oh my God.
She had them in a plastic baggie, folded up, and walked on stage, spread her legs, and pulled her jokes out of her pussy. And it was it was such a, even though this is not the appropriate genitalia, it was such a big dick move.
Dude, yeah, that's big dick energy all day. I mean, it's a stupid question I have to ask. Did she win?
No.
What? Are you fucking whoa, dude. They must have been killers on the other side.
It was her and Joel Walkowski. Both of them were very, very good. And Joel just got her in the end. But nobody gives a shit who wins. To be honest, at Naked Roast, it's such like a fun thing for everybody that I probably couldn't tell you who's won most of them. Just because everybody's having such a blast.
True. If anything, you probably remember like legendary hits like that just happened throughout, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, man. I watch a lot of it, like the ones that you take place in New York City, like a lot of those. And man, I love it. So I could only imagine how crazy it would get.
Well, I'm just blown away by
the nude element.
I'm blown away by the unexpected prop comedy in that last.
Holy shit.
A few people have pulled some pretty good. I know people have come out with like their badge tied around their dick. I know a few people took let's call them performance enhancers.
Oh, dude.
So
you guys don't test the participants beforehand for performance enhancing drugs? I
don't want to throw my friend under the bus. This is so funny. So the second year we did it, it was in a big loft space, all the big shows. And we get about, the biggest space we had the second year was probably sat about 500-600 people. And the judges were all at a table nude as well. And Earl Skakel from LA was one of the judges. And what Earl didn't realize, he thought the table had a banner in front of it. So he was fluffing in between every time he stood up, not realizing that we were on an elevated stage and just 500 people were watching him jerk off.
Oh, that's fantastic, dude.
And nobody told him until later. It's so funny. And then, so Skankers also takes like the safety elements really seriously. They have a ton of security. And not only like is there no photo, no video rule for Naked Roast, if anyone has their phone out, they lose their badge for the entire weekend. Like they get kicked out for the entire weekend.
That's awesome.
I want to say it was last year. One of the marquee sponsors, like the guy that ran the company that was paying for the festival, took his phone out to check his texts during it, and they kicked him out.
Oh, if he's not safe, you're definitely not safe, fuckface. So don't think about it.
So this guy spent $20,000 in security and kicked him out.
Wow, dude. That's good though. That's good. Nobody should be above anybody. And plus, you should be in the moment, and too many people are fucking staring at the phone, watching the show through the phone type deal.
Yeah, it was it's so fucking funny every time. Like it's really wild.
That sounds like a one of a kind of event. I don't know anyone else who's doing naked stand up anywhere in the country.
Well, the whole show came out of so there used to be a show at the Creek and the Cave, which is the first venue we ever did Skankfest at. It is a very bohemian, awesome comedy venue in Queens. There was a show called The Naked Show where comics would do their sets naked.
Really? Wow.
Oh.
And that was right when the roast battle boom started. And we were trying to figure out what show I should do at Skankfest. And it was me, Lewis, my co-host on Realize Podcast, and who runs the festival, and another comic named Mike Brancatelli. And we were sitting in our friend Ralph's kitchen. And as a joke, we were like, well, what are the stupidest shows in New York? And it was Naked Show and Roast Battle. And the three of us all at the same time were like, let's do Naked Roast Battle.
Dude.
Combine the two.
I just love it because you got to be confident to come up here, and you're not going to come up here with some half-ass shit or half-mass. You know what I mean? And
it's going to be full ass because it's going to be out there in the wind.
And it's been wild, and we have surprisingly more girls volunteer for it than you would think.
That's awesome.
It is a great way to catch some of the rising talent in the comedy scene, if you catch my drift.
I was gonna say. So what's the feeling like when you're sitting there at the judges' table or even on stage with all these people looking at you naked? I mean, it's hard enough to get laughs.
You forget. It's really? It's so much adrenaline, and it's like because roast battle itself is scary as fuck. Like you're terrified because comedy has enough nerves behind it, but now you are literally being judged by the audience. Is this person funnier than me? Which, your ego would hopefully say no. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to be judged by a group of, at best, your peers. Sometimes for roast battle, very famous people are going to be judging you and basically telling you whether or not you are funny and if you write good jokes and if you have good delivery. Now, on top of all that, for my show, you're fucking naked. And that's the first thing you forget. You're more concerned with your jokes than you are your dick.
It's like unicycling on a tightrope, but above a volcano. It's like you're not step that fucking danger up and take your clothes off.
Yeah, for 600 to 1,000 screaming comedy fans.
Dude, yeah, probably screaming all kinds of shit at you too. On top of the fucking one person tearing you apart from limb dick.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah,
That's
better hope they're laughing at your jokes and not your fucking balls.
I'm trying to remember. We've had some monsters. You guys watch?
In terms of jokes or in terms of size?
Both,
what are we?
Both.
I can imagine.
Do you guys watch Kill Tony?
Of course.
Joelberg Joel, the driver.
Jimenez, yeah.
Joel Jimenez. He has got a fucking piece on him.
That's a rumor I heard too. Yeah. I've seen that on Kill Tony. They talk about.
Just drags it out behind him when he comes out, or
oh, dude, it was.
I heard that's how he hits his bass drum when he's drumming.
It was a day changer.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
I'm sure you look at some of your peers a little differently after those shows.
Yeah, and I was actually really proud. Last year's the main event, we actually had a trans girl in the main event, and she was she did great. And then afterwards, when there was a bunch of controversy over Louis being allowed to perform, the venue was very upset about it after, of course, because of online complaints from people that weren't there.
Right.
And then some like SJW type comedians were kind of trashing the festival. It was really cool. Trans chick wrote basically about how welcome she felt and how safe she felt, and how we went out of her way to make sure she felt safe and like, kind of assimilated and like part of the crew. And that, I think, beyond anything, is the most important thing at Skagfest, is like everybody has a good time and everybody's equal. And it's just 3 days of love and hard drugs.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, dude. And not a festival like it out there. Definitely.
Well, we hope that, you said September is when.
Yeah, the September, I believe the 25th through 27th is the new dates in Houston. The venue is the Secret Group. They have 3 stages, and then they're turning the parking lot into the main stage, I believe. So that's going to be good for a huge amount of people for like the big shows at night.
You got to get the sunblock going if you're doing the naked show outside.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know if we're allowed to do that one outside. We got to find that one out still.
Figure out the details on that one.
Get a special pop-up tent for that one.
So I got a chance to listen to a few episodes of your horror show. Let me make sure I get the name right. Zac Amico's Midnight Spook Show. I love it.
Oh, cool. Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot, man. Thank you.
Yeah, especially I was listening to the Evil Dead episode, watching along with you on Netflix. It's a cool concept of doing interviews while at the same time a specialized pick of a horror movie.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. It keeps, for me, it's almost like the movie's my co-host.
Nice.
And so it's a definitive amount of time. I know exactly where we're going, how much we're doing. I try to pick movies that I think will go with the people. So I have expanded to I'll do midnight movies, kind of campy, silly stuff that I like. And I really enjoy. I've worked on a bunch of horror movies. That's like my other love. I've assistant directed 4 features. So to get to bring now horror movies into my comedy world is very, very fun and very me. And I love that. I try to only pick movies that are on streaming, so that people don't have to spend the money.
Smart.
And they can watch along with us. And I consider it like a friend experience almost, where people get to hang out with these comics and watch a movie.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, and another thing that I've never seen a show like it. We had tried to fool with the concept like this, but it was just going to be me and him being stupid over.
Well, let's be honest. I got too intoxicated during what was it? Don't wear your
3-4 years ago.
It was like don't wear your high tops in the hood, or what was that movie?
I don't even remember. I don't remember what we watched. Honestly, I just remember you blowing chunks, kid.
Yeah, it ended the episode pretty fucking quickly. Apparently, I can't just down vodka while we watch a movie.
But still, there was something missing. The hook, and the hook is what you've done. It's the interview process while introducing this. Most of the time, it's just something so interesting. People are like, "All right, this is a movie I've never heard about, but it's got a ridiculousness that I can appreciate." Meanwhile,
and I do like to find I think I always ask. I like to find out what scared people growing up, and I think that's always an interesting delve into their psyche, as far as what scared them or what movie freaked them out, and then kind of, even if people don't like horror movies, usually they have a real fun answer for that.
Yeah,
the one guest I mentioned Leatherface jumping through his window. And for some reason, that's scaring him as a kid. It's like, okay, yeah, that would be fucking terrifying.
Yeah, for
it's
me,
funny. A lot of my I'm 32, so between like 30 and 36, every single one it's Chucky.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's a fucking haunting one. That is definitely. I think that would be the one for me if you asked me when I was a kid. Fuck Chucky.
And because Chucky was in commercials,
dude. Yeah,
like I as much as like Freddy and Jason and Leatherface are all like these iconic characters, they didn't show a lot of them in the trailers. The Chucky trailers were just Chucky's face.
That terrifying doll staring back at you.
And you're figuring out as a kid that the world's going to lie to you because he's labeled a good guy. And guess what? He's not a good guy. Definitely isn't.
Yeah. And it was on your TV.
Dude, yeah. I remember Chucky being on at like 3 a.m, being a fucking kid up way too late watching that and being like, yeah, I'm not going to bed tonight.
Well, I grew up with sisters. So, I mean, they had fucking dolls. It's like any one of them could be a serial killer, put into the body of it.
That's the worst, dude. I didn't have any dolls in my house, so I was free of that. I was just worried about neighboring dolls coming over. None of the fucking in-house dolls coming to life.
Zach, so since you ask everyone else what their fear is, what was your fear?
I was scared. Chucky was a big one. That's just the age range I was in. And then The Exorcist. I saw The Exorcist a little too quick. And I was always scared of it's the spider walk when she goes down the stairs backwards.
Yeah, that would do it for I think anyone who encounters a small girl named Regan.
And then it's so funny. I actually think the scariest movie, as far as a movie that has two huge scares, it's one that people don't go after a lot. It's Exorcist 3.
Okay.
Never seen it, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think I saw that one.
So it's written and directed by the guy who wrote the first book, William Peter Blatty. And it stars George C. Scott. And it's basically the demon is now going into a nursing home person to person. And there's a serial killer who it's kind of going in and out of, who's played by Brad Dourif, who is Chucky. And there's a scene in it that ruins me. They go to the nursing home to start interviewing people, and an old lady, they don't even like close in on it. There's not a music sting. An old lady just runs across the ceiling.
Oh God.
Ooh.
Like behind people. And they don't they cut to it eventually. But at first, it's just disorienting, and then you realize what it is, and then it's terrifying.
Oh my God! Yeah, I'm trying to think back for mine. I think mine was more like creatures and stuff like that, more arachnophobia.
American Werewolf in London. Oof.
See, I always liked body horror, so I couldn't. I wouldn't say that necessarily scared me because like The Thing, I dig it, that kind of shit. Mm-hmm. But it was more like the spiders, like giant spiders, shit like that.
Dude, arachnophobia. That was another one that fucked
them just
me up.
Being everywhere, little things being ones. Everywhere is a little
kill
bit
you
much.
in 5 minutes. Oh fuck no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, bugs bother me now. That last segment in I think it's the first Creep show, where all the roaches come out of the old man.
Oh,
is awful.
Dude, anything with bugs is like, if you want to get to the like primal in a human, it's like bugs. There's something about it. Everybody's.
It might be an age range thing too, where we're renting.
Yes.
We're like, fuck bugs.
True. Oh man, fucking. So what now? How long have you been doing comedy, Zach?
I'm about 11 years in.
You're 11 years in. So I'm assuming you were into filmmaking first, right?
Yeah, so I went to film school, and I had to finish out my other curriculum stuff. And my senior year of college, I took a class called The History of New York Comedy. which should have just been called Jews. And and the final was either like a 20-page paper or 5 minutes of stand-up.
Okay.
And I put together 5 minutes that was kind of half stuff that I was stuff from my life, and half almost like street jokes, trying to figure out how to do comedy type things. And they took us in to perform at a comedy, basically a bringer show. And they had, told us to invite our friends and family. And then they had Justin Silver, Dave Smith, Dante Nero came in and talked to us and told us about stand-up. And then when we did the show, the guest, they brought in real comics to kind of like pepper in between the amateurs. And they had Big J Okerson close it out. And that was the day I met Big J. And his manager was the booker of the club that we were performing at the time. And they had us all back to do like a best of show of like 3 years of the class. And they kind of like had us all perform for real comedians and get advice. And in that class was myself, Anna Dresden, who's a writer on SNL now, and Rachel Bloom, who has the show My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Shit, man.
And after
I watched that show with my crazy current girlfriend.
And my crazy wife likes it.
You're going to get in trouble.
She doesn't watch our show.
And the guy that put the show together, who managed Patrice at the time, Big J, Dave Smith, Bonnie Voss, Louis J. Gomez, he asked the three of us if we would be interested in doing stand-up. And those two kind of went their own way because they were better at business and comedy than me. And I went with him. So here I am. And right after that was when Geraldo passed away and a bunch of comics didn't want to come into work. So he just put me up. Like I was like my fifth time ever doing stand-up, and I'm on lineups at a comedy club.
Wow.
Fuck.
And I did good the first night and got cocky and bombed the rest of the weekend. And he wound up giving me like a doorman type job where I sold tickets and did a little bit of security stuff. And then he would let me do, for people that aren't familiar comedy, what's called the check spot. And that is a young comic usually goes up and does their act while the audience is paying their bill. It's kind of deaf. Everyone's doing math and figuring out what they owe and being mad at how much a Heineken costs. And it's kind of like a comedy boot camp. And he put me through that for about a year and a half. And that's how like I got into doing stand-up full time.
Kind of gave you your turning you to stone, man. That's definitely rough. A year of fucking half-ass laughs, like while looking down, like
yeah, or way where I mean, I've had audiences yell their bills at me.
Oh my god,
because they were mad about how much they cost. Like, and from there, that's
what's
how
he expecting you to chip in or fucking?
No, they're just like they're yelling because they think I represent the club.
Oh, great!
So they're just yelling at me about the price. Like that was a constant. And but through there, I met basically who's in my crew of comedians now. We all were on the lineups of those shows for this little club called CB's. And when I think back, so it was like a shithole little room. It sat like maybe like 70 people, but the lineups are all people that are doing really well. So it would be like not just like me, Louis, Dave, Jay that you would expect, but like Mark Norman, Dan Soder, Dan St. Germain, Mike Lawrence, all these people that wound up doing really, really well. They were all, that was the first club that passed all of them. Kurt Metzger, Christy Stefano, like all these people, Giannis Pappas. I remember them all being like, that was the first club that used them regularly. And we all came out of that. And all those guys were, like the class above me. And I kind of got to coast along and hang out with them. So I feel like I got to skip a lot of steps.
Yeah, it seems like that might alleviate a little bit of pressure being under the wing like that, kind of coached a little bit through it.
Yeah, I skipped the open mic portion. And I just started hosting a mic at that club. So I kind of and it took me a long time to catch up. Like I was probably behind where I should have been for like 2 or 3 years. But I think it was also like trial by fire. Like I had to get funny because of the people that I was surrounded with.
Yeah, that elevated presence, like your peers. Yeah.
Was there something during that time that you say you learned that you didn't get by taking, like, say that stand-up class?
I learned a lot about not being overly concerned with the audience's happiness. Dante Nero like took me aside one day. He's like, "You keep checking in on them too much. Just do it and it's more important to be you than it is to be concerned with their entertainment." And then all the other things that you're going to learn over 10, 11 years of doing stuff, where to pause, how to make things mean more, storytelling, stuff that I'm still learning. Like I just started barely headlining now. So, you're still putting it together.
Yeah. It's a profession I think you never really master. You're always going to be learning how to do more, better on your timing and all that.
Yeah. Well, and there's always a lot of room for improvement.
Too, probably.
Yeah. Dude, one of the things I got to say that I noticed with you is you have something that you can't be taught, though. You're quick-witted when it comes to, like, roast battles and even just being on a podcast. Sometimes you just come out with some shit that I'm like, holy fuck, that was instant.
I think that's from growing up. I have my dad has 4 brothers, and whenever everyone was together, basically you got like one chance to speak.
You had to make it razor sharp. Fuck.
And you had to make it count. And they would do nothing but what later I realized was roasting. But they just used to 5 of them sit at a table and make fun of each other all day.
Mm.
And then if you walked by, you were also going to get made fun of. So I think that's what kind of gave me the timing and the ability to sit on something and wait for the perfect moment, because you don't want to speak just for the sake of speaking.
True. Yeah.
That's a lesson that takes people probably most of their lives to learn.
Especially you get aggravated. Oh my God, people stop. Oh my God.
That's one thing I wanted to ask. So during a roast, is it like, that's not something everyone could do, because like people take shit personally. Like, is there a method or like a trick to just like letting that shit slide off and just not letting someone get in your head when they're coming at you with some really personal shit?
I mean, for me, it's just words. I don't give a shit. They're not telling me anything I didn't know. And I've seen feelings get hurt. Like, I saw there's the video has mysteriously disappeared. But when they did Roast Masters at the Stand, the club that it was originally at, I do know a comic who I won't name walked off stage in the middle of the battle and went home.
Oh, fuck. Defeat.
But yeah, I mean, some people take it for, to me, it's just word. And like, the most important thing about roast battle isn't whether you win. It's how good of a time did the audience have. And the best battles are the ones where you do equally well. It's like, same with pro wrestling. You don't want to watch one guy just beat the shit out of the other guy. You want to see a story where both of them do well and then somebody ekes it out at the end. To me, I think that was the easiest transition, was roast battle to wrestling, because it is a performance and it is storytelling and it is like trying to play a character. And like, I feel like the entire second half of my roast battle career, I was playing the heel, and I was almost setting myself up to lose, because it was more important for me to have a great show and say the most outlandish shit, as opposed to trying to be clever and likable and have the audience be like, he's got pizzazz.
Dude, I've definitely heard you say some shit that was like killer brutal. This one lady, Kim, I forgot, like had somebody pass away recently, and you just shredded it apart. And I was like, Jesus, dude. Killer with that stuff, man. So I see you there's no limits with your roasted, man. So I'd hate to
to be honest with you, to pull the curtain back, we do actually all ask each other for permission mostly to talk about stuff. The best battles I've had are ones where I've sat down with the person and had dinner like the week before, and we basically went through everything. Like before I battled Evan Williams for Comedy Central, we went to a diner and just told each other every sad thing about ourselves, which must have been like anyone walking by must have thought it was the worst first date of all time. Because we were just listing all the tragedies in our lives to give each other shit to say. Mike Lawrence, who won the first season of Roast Battle, he's one of the fucking funniest people in the world.
Yeah.
He taught us that. He was the one that said, you need to go out to dinner. You need to be friends. Because if you guys don't like each other and don't laugh at each other's jokes, the audience will get in on it, and it's not as fun to watch.
That makes a lot more sense. Like it's not so much a competition as it is a play or something.
Yeah. And you can only, when it's like that, you can only both do better. It can only be good for both of you, as opposed to like if somebody just smashes somebody, that's not fun.
Yeah, it's similar to pro wrestling, man. I mean, the theory there, you got to make the give and pull. You got to add the elements of happiness and anger, it makes sense. And if you see a comedian not enjoying it, there is something about that that's very off-putting, I would say.
Yeah, the most important thing in roast battle is to laugh at the other person's jokes.
Yeah.
And to make a show of it, because then it makes the audience know that it's okay to say these horrible things.
Yeah, yeah. I never would have thought that you guys like sat down and, permission wise on some of the things. I knew you did your research. I've heard plenty of that, but like I never knew it was that intimate, It
really helps. And I feel like the whole roast battle bubble kind of burst because it stopped being fun to watch somebody say horrible things because it was so much closer to our reality. Yeah. Like nobody wants to see me get on stage and say and do racial humor or like misogynist humor because that's too close to the real guy that's running the show. And I feel like the entire roast battle bubble started to burst right around Trump getting into office. And the tone of everything changed.
Well, it's like if the president's doing it, it's not edgy anymore.
Yeah. And it's just not fun. It's not as fun. And it's still really fun to do the shows for like an audience that's in on it and loves it. But as far as entertaining, like, random squares off the street, that shit just doesn't fly anymore.
Unless you're naked.
Yeah, then, I mean, that's a whole other element to keep you on your toes.
Absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit more about your work with Troma? I mean, they're an institution in horror. So I'm really interested to hear how you got involved with them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Troma's been like the main thing that I love since I'm like 12. I know pro wrestling and Troma. Who would have thought? And I made a couple movies in college, like short films, and I mailed them to Troma. And somebody that worked there at the time kind of reached out to me right as I was getting out of college and said, hey, would you be interested in coming in and working 1 or 2 days a week at the office? We're looking for people. And I came in first they did a PSA for PETA, where it was like a bunch of humans in cages being treated like chickens were. Lloyd from Troma is a big animal rights activist. And I came in with that, and then I started coming in and being an intern, like basic office work. But then Lloyd realized that I'm very good at copying people's speech patterns. Mm-hmm. I think that's the reason I do well on podcasts is I know when people are going to pause and stuff, and I can use their delivery to kind of bounce off of. And I started doing interviews as Lloyd, as an intern, because like every little website that wanted to interview him, he would say yes. And then he would tell me basically what to say. I would put it together, and then he would go through it. I think like just because I could mimic his speech patterns.
Makes people feel comfortable for sure.
And he was fine. And I was there for like a year or two interning. I left, and then I saw they were doing Return to Nukem High. And I went in and auditioned, and I just said, hey, I want to die in a Troma movie. I've gotten to die in the online shorts and do little stuff, but I really want to be in one and just die. And so for people that don't know, Troma's been making no-budget movies for 45 years. And the pay is horrible. The conditions are squalor. But the movies are really fun, and you're on set with 80 like-minded people. It's basically like a family reunion, but for people you've never met before. And one of the ways Troma kind of make sure the performers, the actors and actresses, aren't going to quit this hellhole of an experience is they make you audition like 8 times. Like you just come in for weeks. They keep bringing you back. They keep bringing you back. And I had a feeling that the part in the movie that they were having me read for, I might get. And then the guy that was going to be the second AD left the project. And the producer called me. I was working at the time selling comedy tickets in Times Square, which is the worst job in the world.
I was going to say, that sounds like so much fun.
It's horrendous.
You and the sign spinners and the knockoff Elmos.
Yeah, it's hell on earth. And they called and said, hey, we're actually interested in bringing you on as second assistant director on top of the part of the movie. Can you commit your time to us? We want you. It was a Thursday night. They said, can you move to Buffalo, New York Monday morning? And I said, I'll see you in 20 minutes. And I walked to my boss. I quit. And I got on the train and went and signed my contract. And I moved. I just left everything. I lived with a girl at the time.
Oh, shit.
You left her too.
I said, I'll be back in a few months. And I said, I'll keep paying the rent, but I'll be back in a few. And I was gone. And then throughout the production on a Troma movie, you kind of don't start with your title, you end with it, and people kind of earn it. So like if you are on the effects team, you get bumped up the harder you work, the more valuable you are. And I wound up being in charge of all the background people who we call actor persons, because nobody's extra. Everybody's important.
Nice.
I wound up being in charge of all the actor persons and background. And then eventually I was like running the rehearsals. So Lloyd gave me this title that doesn't really exist called Associate Director. He's got one other Associate Director, and that's James Gunn, who Associate Directed Romeo and Juliet.
Nice.
And so we did Return to Nukem High Volume 1 and 2. We shot those mostly back to back, then got more money about a year later and shot additional scenes. And then most recently we shot Shakespeare's Shitstorm, which is our version of Shakespeare's The Tempest. And I did a pass on that script. I wrote some extra jokes. I'm in it, and I associate directed that one as well. We just shot that one last summer, and that should be ready to start screening probably this summer. I just saw the final cut of it, and I'm very, very happy with it.
That's awesome, man. Now, going from watching it as a kid to actually working for it, how does that make you feel? I mean, it must feel like a big accomplishment.
You know, I was so young. I was like 23, 24 when I started, and it was surreal. And it's still surreal. It feels weird. It feels like I can't watch Terror Firmer, which is the Troma movie that takes place. It's a killer on the set of a Troma movie.
Okay.
I can't watch it because it's too real. And it gives me like PTSD. Because that really, it's chaotic. It's grueling. We shoot sometimes 18-hour days, 20-hour days. You go back to for Return to Nukem High, we shot in right outside of Buffalo, New York, in Niagara Falls, the New York side. We had 80 of us living in an abandoned funeral home.
Damn.
Just sleeping on the floor on yoga mats. That's and crazy. You would work all day, 18-hour days, go home and sleep for 4 hours, get up and shoot another 18-hour day. So sure, it's a great. I mean, when it's done, that's the best. And getting to screen it and getting to do the Q&As, and now so we'll do the same type of release schedule as like a Kevin Smith, where instead of the movie coming out everywhere all at once, we'll tour with it. Smart. And we'll do different big cities, and the cast, Lloyd, will all come and do Q&As. And now it's kind of I've de facto become the person that like I run the Q&As. And I basically, that's like an extension of stand-up at this point, where I kind of do crowd control, keep people happy. It's very weird. The new one, I felt a little more in control because I had already proven that I could do it on 2 movies. And Lloyd really trusted me on this one because he's in a lot of the new one. So I got to do a lot of directing. He also let me kind of sit with him and give line suggestions. So like I was like kind of doing rewrite as we were shooting. It's the coolest. And it is weird. The weirdest was right after Return to Nukem High Volume 1 came out on Blu-ray. I watched it on mushrooms. And I forgot I was in it.
Oh shit.
Oh my God, dude.
That'll throw you.
Fuck.
And I'm watching it and I start seeing all my friends. And I'm going, that's so cool. They're all in it. And I was tripping balls. And I was working at a haunted house at the time. And one of the girls that worked there made mushroom truffles that were way too much for me to handle at the time. And I was by myself and I watched the movie. And then I showed up and I couldn't figure out if it was real or not.
Oh, that's a bad headspace.
Yeah, I've had bad trips, but that's a whole new level of like interdimensional wondering what the fuck is going on. Are you like watching your life through a TV somewhere? Like, oh my God.
Yeah, not only that, my name in that movie is Zach.
Oh, dude.
So you don't know when people are talking to TV you or tripping you.
Oh, dude, it was wild.
Man, well, I hope you learned your lesson there, mister. Oh my God.
Yeah,
never
definitely.
Half a truffle next time.
Yeah. Thank God that my death scene wasn't in that one, or that would have fucking ruined me.
Oh God.
That would do it. Oh my God.
Dude, that's crazy. Man, Zac Amico, the man of many personalities, many fucking jobs.
I don't know how you have time to do all these things, man. Wrestling, filmmaking, fucking comedy, podcast.
Yeah, I'm a busy boy, but I couldn't be happier. I most people don't get to live their dream, let alone live like 3 of them.
Right.
So it's the coolest. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Dude, as somebody who likes your art in every form, I like that I get to watch it in so many different fucking things. So I think that's smart for your career. You know, I think you're doing wonders being in all these different avenues of, you know, bringing popularity to your name. And you're doing well with it, man. You're hilarious. You're fucking entertaining in the ring. I just started watching that. That's craziness. I can't wait to see what else you do.
Thank you very much.
Man, where do the people check you out? Let's get all the plugs out here.
All right, so keep it easy. Twitter and Instagram at Zac is not funny. ZAC is not funny. My 2 podcasts are the Real Ass Podcast, which is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and Zac Amico's Midnight Spook Show, which is Fridays at midnight on the Gas Digital Network. Use the promo code Zac, get yourself a 14-day free trial. Of course, you can always watch it for free on YouTube or Stitcher, however you get your podcasts. You can listen to it. Capital Wrestling comes out on YouTube every week. It is also on the Gas Digital Network. And we do live shows in the tri-state area, but we might be traveling to your neck of the woods if you are in America soon. We're looking to expand. Those are all the best ways to check me out. The new movie is Shakespeare's Shitstorm, should be out this summer. And you can see me in Return to Nukem High, Volume 1 and 2, available on DVD or Blu-ray, wherever you would buy those, as well as, if you want to get them off any of the streaming sites.
Awesome. Definitely check them out, people. Zac, we'll have to do this again sometime, man. Thank you again for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much for having me. It was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. And thank you, everybody, listening at home. Until next time, that's it.
There you go.
We're smoking America. We passing America. I'm mapping America. I'm second America. We talking America. We blazing America. This is fucking America. in America.
This has been American Slacker Podcast. You can reach the show by searching American Slacker on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Reddit, or send them an email to americanslackerpodcast@gmail.com. You can download and rate American Slacker on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and all other podcast platforms. Visit the show's website, aspodcast.com, where you will find every episode, official merchandise, and links to their Patreon if you would like to support American Slacker.
We spoke in America. We passing America. I'm mapping America.